What is going on YouTube? This is Michelin Man, where today we're going to be looking at potato ice cream, creme fraiche, and chives. So this channel is going to be sort of an exploratory channel where we're going to take recipes from Michelin Star restaurants and we're just going to create them at home to prove that, if I can do it, I'm a 20-year-old college student, then you can do it, that they aren't nearly as daunting as they seem. So first, we're going to start off with the 11 Madison Park Cookbook, written by Daniel Hum and Will Guidara. This cookbook is amazing. It's been one of my favorites since I was a kid, and this is one of the older version of the cookbooks. They have a newer version out now. Highly recommend seeing it. None of these recipes are mine, just so you guys know. This cookbook is kind of thick. Look at that. I know you can't tell, but look, when I drop it, it just goes boom. It's a big boy, thick with like 80 C's. So we're gonna start with the first recipe, which is potato ice cream, creme fraiche, and chives. So I don't know how this is gonna work, but buckle in for the ride. So for our first part of the recipe, we're gonna make potato chips, which we're gonna need one large Yukon Gold potato, which I have right here, and we're gonna go make some clarified butter right over on the stove and a half teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna put 2 sticks of butter in the pan and we're gonna let that bubble until it's all nice and melted, and we're just gonna wait for the milk solids to separate from the actual butter, and then we're gonna strain that through a cheesecloth, and that will be our clarified butter. Okay, so while that is cooling off, we're gonna make our whipped creme fraiche, which for that we're gonna need a bowl and our whisk, which we almost just dropped. So we're gonna use a cup of creme fraiche, a little bit of salt, and the juice of 1 lemon. Just dump that in there. Next, we're gonna take the juice of 1 lemon. We're gonna slice that open. We're just gonna juice it, keeping your hands in a cup so that we catch any seeds that fall. Now we're gonna add our Maldon sea salt. I know there's gonna be a lot of controversy of using the sea salt. I just like the flakiness. I wanna see if it works. And I'm kind of out of iodized salt and kosher salt because of the quarantine. So I have to go pick some of that up later. So now we're gonna whisk until it gets to stiff peaks, but then I'm gonna realize in about 20 minutes after doing this that using a whisk sucks, and I'm gonna go get my hand mixer, and that will speed up this process so much. Okay, so you're gonna continue whisking that until it gets to stiff peaks. Always gotta taste for flavoring. Think it tastes pretty good. Little lemon, little salt, a lot of creme fraiche, obviously. And we're not going for super stiff peaks because I don't want it to be too hard, because we gotta let it set in the fridge overnight. I'm gonna season it with a little more salt, just a tad. Then we're gonna cover this in plastic wrap and just let it sit in the fridge overnight until we are done with our potato ice cream. So now that we put that in the fridge, we are going to take our clarified butter and we're gonna strain it through our cheesecloth and into a bowl. So I don't have cheesecloth, so I'm just using paper towel. Nobody kill me. And we're just gonna pour it in there. This will act sort of as a cheesecloth, and we're just gonna press it down with whatever you have around. I had a rubber spatula that I'm just gonna press until I can get as much butter out of there. We're trying to separate the milk fats again. So this is what you're gonna end up with: clarified butter, delicious. We're gonna plastic wrap that, we're gonna throw it in the fridge. All right, so next we're gonna slice up our potato chips. We're gonna take our 1 Yukon Gold potato. We're gonna peel off the little sticker. We're gonna slice it up into super thin slices, as thin as you want. You kind of want them see-through. Now, once those are sliced, you're gonna put them in some ice cold water for an hour to remove any excess starch. So now that's done, we're gonna take 4 large russet potatoes. I'm gonna use 2 because this makes 8 servings of ice cream and I don't need that much. And we're just gonna slice them into French fry looking shapes. Once those are done, we're gonna take those off to the side and we're gonna brown them in a pan with some canola oil. All right, so once you get your canola oil nice and hot, you're gonna dump your potatoes in there, and then you're gonna fry them up for about 2 to 5 minutes until they get crispy on all the sides. This is what it'll look like in about 2 to 5 minutes. And after this, you're gonna put them on a baking sheet lined with aluminum foil and stick it in the oven for 20 minutes at 380 degrees. So once those are all done, you're gonna take them out of the oven. You're gonna taste them just because they're French fries and they're delicious. You're gonna season them with salt, and you gotta stop eating them because you will become fat during quarantine. Okay, so now we're gonna make the ice cream part. We're gonna remove this from the countertop. And we're gonna take a cup each of whole milk and a cup of reduced fat milk. Okay, then we're gonna take some blue agave nectar and we're gonna put about a 1/4 cup of a measurement's worth in there. So now you season with a little more salt, and then you just mix to combine. You add your potatoes, clump by clump, making sure not to burn your hands because they're very hot. And we're gonna place that on the stove to simmer, and then we're gonna let it steep for 45 minutes. So once on the stove, this is what it'll look like. Kind of disgusting and weird. Okay, so now we have our clarified butter, and we're going to now make potato chips. So once the potatoes have been sitting in the water for about an hour, they'll become somewhat pliable, which is interesting. They kind of concave in, and we're gonna line them on a paper towel to drain off any of the excess moisture. While we do that, we're gonna prepare a baking sheet lined with aluminum foil, and then we're gonna get parchment paper on top of that, and we're gonna place each of the potato chips down on top of the parchment paper. We're then gonna coat them with our clarified butter, put another piece of parchment paper on top of that, and then press a other cookie pan on top of the parchment paper to kind of create a press to make sure that these potato chips stay nice and crisp. All right, we're gonna bake that in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes until they become nice and golden brown. Okay, now that our ice cream mixture has been steeping for about 45 minutes, we're gonna take it off the heat, we're gonna let it cool, and now we're gonna bring it over to our work surface where we're gonna puree it all with my little blender. And we're gonna spoon as much of the potatoes as we can in without spilling. And then after that, we're gonna dump in the liquid until it almost covers the top of the blade, but we don't wanna go too much over because then it will seep out the bottom. Okay, then you're just gonna puree that until it's somewhat smooth. We don't need to get it to the smoothest consistency because we're gonna strain it in a sieve later. So once that is all pureed, you're gonna get a big bowl, you're gonna get your sieve, you're gonna place it on top, and then you're just gonna strain it. Okay, then you wanna mix the mixture until it passes through the sieve so it's nice and smooth and there are no big lumps or clumps of potato left. And now that's done, we're gonna go place it in our ice cream bowl, and then we're gonna freeze it overnight so that tomorrow we can make some potato ice cream. So now our potato chips have been finished. We're gonna take them out of the oven, very hot, and we were presented with some beautifully crisp, delicious potato chips. We're gonna season them with a little salt to taste, and gotta be careful because I will eat all of these. So now it's the next day, and all of our ingredients are ready to plate. So we're just going to take our creme fraiche and we're gonna make our own homemade piping bag with a Ziploc bag. We're just gonna spoon all the creme fraiche into the bag as possible. And once that is all spooned in, we're gonna zip it up and we're gonna place that on the side. Now we have our chives, which we're gonna use as decoration. We have our tweezers to plate said chives. We have our nice flat plate. We have our potato chips, and we have our caviar. I cannot afford $65 Osetra caviar, so I just got $15 salmon roe. I'm gonna go fetch our ice cream from the fridge. It was chilling in the freezer overnight, and I had to let it defrost in the fridge for about 2 hours so it could get soft enough to do some quenelles. Quenelles are these things that I suck at doing. Basically, you just have to get 2 spoons and you have to pass the ice cream through each spoon trying to make a perfect little oval. I have tried many times in my life and I have failed many times. And then we're gonna plate it, and then we're going to take our creme fraiche in our piping bag and we're gonna pipe some little dots all over the plate. And then we're going to take our caviar, we're gonna place it down gently next to the potato ice cream. We're gonna take our chives, we're gonna snip them into little bits. Different sizes is good, varying textures, varying physical appearance. We're gonna plate them on top, next to, and around the creme fraiche, the caviar, and the potato ice cream, and we're gonna top it all with a little potato chip. So this is it. This is our first dish, potato, creme fraiche, and chives. Very proud of it. For my first try on this series, not bad. You know, I have to admit, it's not my favorite, but it has everything you're looking for like a light, refreshing appetizer. Overall, very happy with this. A little too much time for the end product, but I think that's gonna be the theme of the show.